just been reading some news about property investing, and it may not be good news for property investors, so I thought you might want to hear about it. So we've got a new government with new enthusiasm and new ideas, and I'm not making a political point. I think that many of the end points they want to reach are actually very worthy. I'm sure we'd all like a rental system which is fair to everybody. The problem is, though, of course, that if they see there's a distortion in the market, then they're going to be biased to one party rather than the other, potentially. Or coming in as a new government, having been out of power for so many years, they may be so enthusiastic that they don't actually think through the implications of some of their policies, which is something all politicians do, by the way. Not just the red ones, the blue ones obviously did it as well. But we are where we are. And one thing which I've noticed over the last few months is that whilst the Renters Reform Bill has got a lot of press attention, one thing which hasn't had so many column inches and has almost sort of gone under the radar a little bit is what the government are suggesting about energy efficiency and EPC certificates. Because the way things stand at the moment, the Conservative government were going to try and get everybody to get their energy performance certificates up to a C rating by 2028, and then they binned that, and now it's all come back on the table again. And what Ed Miliband has said is that he wants all rental properties to have a C rating by 2030. And he says the move is going to help more than 3 million people in the country facing fuel poverty, which seems like an awful lot. I would have thought that, I'm not sure, I've lost track of how many rental properties there are nowadays, but I would think that that's almost all the rental properties in the country, and I don't believe that they're all below a C. In my portfolio, for example, they're probably about 1%, 2% of the properties are below a C and the rest of them are C. So I'm not saying that's necessarily typical across the country, but I don't think 3 million just sounds like a lot. But anyway, there's nothing wrong with that as an end point. Is absolutely fine. But of course, the thing is, how do we actually get there? And the NRLA have been saying that they're going to lobby the government, because one thing we don't know about at the moment is what's going to happen about the cost. Now, the last government, before they ditched it, were talking about capping the costs at £10,000. Is that going to be the same again now? Or is it going to be unlimited? Because some estimates have said, well, that's all well and good, but some properties may cost £15,000 or even £20,000 or maybe £30,000 to bring them up to a C standard. And of course, my worry is that it depends on how enthusiastic this current government is. And, people come and go. We don't know that Ed Miliband's going to be there for the next 5 years. He probably is, but what if he isn't? What if somebody comes in and says, yeah, C rating's good, but let's change how we actually define a C? Is that going to happen? In which case, what are they going to actually expect? So this is something which, I'm starting to think about now. What am I going to do about my properties which are currently rated D, and when am I going to start doing it? Because what I don't want to do is leave it all until 2029. I don't want to leave it all until sort of the early part of 2030. And what I'd love to do, if I can, is to sort of look at what I need to do in terms of repairs and improvements scheduled over the next 5 years or so, and think, how can that actually improve the rating? One thing which I always find very frustrating about this, and I don't know if you feel the same, is that it's quite hard to work out what you need to do to actually improve the property. If there's some kind of sort of standard process, but of course every property is different. And it seems to me quite bizarre that things like whether you've got energy efficient light bulbs can affect your EPC, even those are things which are actually not really part of the property. They're more like sort of chattels, aren't they? They could be taken away. So that makes an impact, and yet you hear about other people spending thousands on trying to sort of dry line external walls and all this kind of stuff. And then they're told, well, unfortunately, you've improved the energy efficiency, but you haven't improved it enough to go up into the next level. So all of this stuff, to me, it's just very confusing. but we have to do what we have to do. And I suppose as a basic, thinking about loft insulation, the quality boiler, making sure the heating system's all sorted, thermostatic valves on radiators, new windows if they're needed. I mean, we're heading towards the days of triple glazed and not just double glazed, aren't we? New doors, external doors, anything like that is going to help. But it would be great to be able to sit down with an EPC assessor and say, look, in practice, if you've got an older terraced house which was built around 1900, what is it we actually need to be doing? Because it seems like some properties just get tick the box, that's the C. Other properties, it's like, oh no, well, you're so far below the C that you're never going to quite get there. Anyway, these are just things that we need to think about. At least we've got the best part of 5 years or so to think about it. But as I say, not something I'd leave for 5 years. I'd be thinking about it now and thinking about what you can do as part of your sort of standard maintenance schedule over the next 5 years. If you're interested in property and property investing, then please do come over to my website, www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk. That's thepropertyteacher.co.uk, where you'll find loads of resources, including my courses and ebooks, which are under this tab here, Learning with Peter. And of course, there's my blog, where you'll find loads of useful articles, free special reports on this tab here. So please do come over to thepropertyteacher.co.uk.